I think there's so many people creating content. There's so many people out here trying to become a brand, trying to become an influencer. It's like, if you just focused on serving your customer and not trying to be famous, you would get there a lot faster.
Welcome to another episode of The Brand Behavior, the podcast that delves into the latest marketing and branding trends to help you grow your brand. I'm your host, Jonte Delane, and today we have an exciting topic that's crucial for anyone looking to make their mark online and build a strong personal brand in the digital world. We have three incredible guests that have successfully built their own personal brands and are going to share their insights and strategies with us today. First up, we have Melinda Emerson, known as the Small Biz Lady. Melinda is the #1 small business expert, a thriving entrepreneur for nearly 20 years, an international renowned keynote speaker, and she is the author of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. Melinda, how's it going?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you. Next, we have Chad Pollitt. Chad is a digital marketing pioneer, author of several influential books on content marketing and native advertising, and he's a co-founder of Relevance. He's created profitable online marketing campaigns for over 17 years and is a renowned international speaker. Chad, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Happy to have you. Dr. Glenna Anderson, she's next. Dr. Glenna is a licensed clinical social worker, author, and speaker who focuses on mental health and personal development. She leverages social media to build her personal brand and shares strategies for personal growth and resilience. Hey, Dr. Glenna, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, so let's dig right in. We all know today in this digital age, building a strong personal brand is more important than ever. So whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketer or a professional looking to establish your authority in the field, how you present yourself online is certainly going to make or break your success. From leveraging social media platforms to crafting compelling content, strategies for personal branding, they're definitely ever evolving. So my esteemed guests are going to provide some actionable insights that help them build their online brands. And so I'm going to first start off by talking about digital platforms and focusing on which digital platforms we should use in order to build our personal brands. So I want to start talking about your experiences on how you've built your personal brand using these platforms. Melinda, what are the strategies that you can provide for people who are looking to build a personal brand on social media?
Well, the first thing I can say is that you have to know where your fish are, right? I think the biggest challenge that I see people have is that they own 5, 6 platforms. I built $1 million brand from one platform, and it was Twitter. So for me, what I want people to do is focus on only 1 or 2 social media platforms, because once you dominate those, then you can fan out. But unless you sell social media services, you really only need to be on 1 or 2, and they should be where your target customer spends most of their time online.
Yeah. And I know, Chad, you have a heavy LinkedIn following. And so how have you used LinkedIn to build your personal brand?
Yeah, so it's funny you asked me that because I just did an executive LinkedIn group where a bunch of founders got together, and we had some coaches that have my following on LinkedIn times 100 and came in and taught us their techniques. And what I can say is when it comes to LinkedIn, it's okay to write a long post, but the key when you write a post on LinkedIn is to break it up. You don't want to go more than 3 sentences deep on a post on LinkedIn, because the average user or the average reader tunes out because they're skimmers. So the more you can put lists, bulleted lists, numbered lists, so on and so forth, the more your content will be consumed. So that's the advice I'd give on LinkedIn.
And so you're saying that you've created a lot of content, put it out on LinkedIn, and your tactic when doing so is to keep it short and simple because people are skimming. I assume they're professionals, they're busy. So is that your rationale there?
Yeah. And you said short. I won't go so far as to say short because I post long a lot of times. But what I do is I break that content up and I don't go more than 3 layers deep. When I say layers, I mean 3 lines deep. I don't go more than 3.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's great. And when you think about, just the algorithms and how you can get more organic reach, we've noticed too, if you position your caption to exceed the visible area where users have to click see more, it actually is considered an engagement, which can certainly help with your organic reach. The algorithms thinks that people are interested, so you click on that see more. So what we try to do is focus, when we're dealing with clients, focus on having them click on that see more, have an enticing first line so that action can be taken, right? So I'm sure you're leveraging that as you continue to build your digital brand. So sorry?
I was just going to say, you said it better than I could. That's exactly right.
Awesome. So we talked about Melinda. You built, like you said, your $1 million small biz lady brand off of Twitter. Chad, you've taken your inroads into LinkedIn and developed your brand there. Glenna, I see you on Instagram. How are you using Instagram to build and promote your brand in the mental health space?
So I come from a place, again, I'm a social worker through and through, and no one talks to us about business, branding, marketing, advertising. When I started my practice, I thought those words were synonymous. So no one talks to us about any of this. When I started my practice, I was poor and I did not have any money to invest in anything. And I just started posting on social media because they were readily accessible. I didn't start with a strategy. I didn't understand algorithms. And to be very honest, it was touchy because I work in a field where confidentiality is paramount. And I have to be very careful about how I disseminate information because I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. And so I learned a lot of what I know by trial and error, not too much error because, I have a license and I'm not trying to lose it over making silly social media mistakes. But it started with me basically saying, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to do something. And then I started to realize what was working and what wasn't working. And over the course of me starting my business, I went back to school and I didn't have the bandwidth to post on a regular basis. So I would go in the studio and I would batch record 1-minute videos. And that became a big part of my brand because it allowed people to meet me. It allowed people to have a conversation with me, even though I wasn't actually conversing directly with them. And I realized that visually, people being able to meet the therapist before they're sitting in the therapist's office carried a lot of value. And so that is how I ended up leaning really heavily into Instagram and Facebook because it's visual. And I've just learned that works really well for me and for my business overall.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think going to therapy is a very, you can say, maybe vulnerable experience. And if you are going to go into a vulnerable situation with someone, you want to know a little bit more about them, see if they can relate to whatever is challenging you. And so I think that's great. I think it's Instagram and all the other social networks are just a great way to get people to know you. If they know, like, and trust you, then they're going to absolutely choose you as a therapist. Melinda, you mentioned earlier about building this brand on Twitter. Twitter's changed. Right?
Yeah.
Twitter changed. And so I remember connecting with you way back in the day as well, when it actually was Twitter, not X. How are you dealing with that transition? Have you seen any change in audiences, impact on algorithms?
Yeah, it's a shame what Elon Musk has done to Twitter. My first social media love. I don't even enjoy Twitter anymore like I used to. My primary platform these days actually is LinkedIn. And so for me, We still post on LinkedIn, on Twitter, because that's actually where my biggest social media audience is. We have over 300,000 followers over on Twitter, but when people take it over, when evil dictators run anything, it doesn't work like it used to. So it's still my go-to if something like urgent's going on and I want to kind of find out what's going on. But I get a lot more traction and a lot more love over on LinkedIn. And then after LinkedIn, Instagram would be my third platform that we look at. And I mean, I have verified checks on all these platforms too. So it's hard to just like walk away. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was like, it's just nothing's as good as the first time, right? So, I mean, and Twitter that's 100% true for Twitter. And I don't know that people could build a brand like I built on Twitter anymore either. I think there's so many people creating content. There's so many people out here trying to become a brand, trying to become an influencer. It's like, if you just focused on serving your customer and not trying to be famous, you would get there a lot faster. The world is still waiting on great content. And if you think you're going to go into AI and write all your content, that's not going to work for you either, because everybody's content's going to sound just alike. You really, I mean, I wrote all my books and my 5,000 articles on my blog before AI. A bit of a AI snob in that way, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I use AI every day for different things in my business, but I'm not using it to write books or create signature content, because you cannot copyright things out of AI, which people don't.
Right. Listen, I hear you. I'm somewhat of a purist, especially people who know me and follow me. I used to be a DJ, and back in the day when I actually had vinyl, and now you have all these DJs using their computers and things like that. And so I can be somewhat of a snob too in that sense. So I totally understand what you're saying. Right. But you mentioned earlier that you have pretty much certified checks across all your social platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I know the process has changed a little bit. What was your process of getting those certified checks?
Well, I got them the old-fashioned way before you could pay for them. I got them just from being a good steward, sharing content, answering people's questions. What people don't realize is that, how I even became the small biz lady was because when I first got on Twitter in 2008, my name, Melinda Emerson, was taken, and I had to come up with a nickname. And so a friend of mine at the time was like, well, let's come up with a nickname for you. And I was like, you mean like Mindy or Melly Mel or something? And she said, no, fool, you're not a rapper. I'm not trying to give you a name like that. He said, let's come up with a name that tells people who you are and what you do. And that was the day I became Small Biz Lady, which we now know was like the best branding accent that ever could have possibly happened to me. But it took about 2 years. Like, I tweeted, I answered people's questions, I shared personal anecdotes about myself every day, like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Like, it was a job. To build my brand, like before anybody really started paying attention to me. And it really took about 22 months to do it. So it was not like I sent one tweet and that changed my life. That is not what happened. And I became a trusted member of the community. I mean, I tweeted for a year before I ever tried to sell anybody anything. I just shared good, helpful information. And what I learned was that when you give, you get. So when my book did finally come out, my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, people were all over me. How can I help you? Can I review it on my blog? Can I, and so you don't get a small business nonfiction book in print for 14 years with Simon & Schuster selling 100,000 copies if you haven't earned the right, if you haven't put in the work so that people trust you, they know that you have a viewpoint, have something valuable to say, have always helped people. So I think that you've got to put the time in. And like, know, and trust is true in person as well as it is online. And it's even harder online because there's so many, scammers, and now we have deep fakes and all this other business. But I think that you got to really put in the work. I talk about the 6 C's of social media marketing. The first thing you got to do is connect. then you have to communicate. You have to communicate with quality content, and you have to do that consistently. And once you do that, you become a trusted member of the community. And once you build trust, that's how you can turn that relationship into commerce. And if you try to do those things out of order, you're going to get messed up. People are going to see that you're just about transaction, right? That you're not really about the people, that you don't have a heart for the people. People can tell.
You can see through it.
If you're just trying to get likes or you're just trying to get followers, people can tell. And nowadays, it's not even about that anyway. It's about engagement. So now micro influencers that only have 1,000 to 10,000 followers are actually more relevant than these people out here that done bought and did whatever they had to do to get 1 million followers, because we know some of that stuff ain't real, right? So I think that it's interesting that the paradigm has shifted from the mega influencer to the micros, and the micros are out here getting paid because their people read their stuff, their people open new stuff, their people click to buy, right? And so I think that that's how the game has changed, I think, significantly.
For sure. And I remember following you for a long time. I first got on Twitter 2012, I believe it was, and I thought I was extremely late. I after a while of putting out content and connecting with people, I put in for my verification check, never got it. But for some weird reason, I guess after Elon took over, I just had a verification check.
Well, and let me say this, that whole verification stuff has always been like voodoo, kabuki stuff. Like how I got all of my check marks was, it's like, because one day somebody emailed me and said, we need to verify your name and your cell phone number. Okay. And next thing you know, it's like, you've now been verified on Twitter. Like, I can't tell you what I did. I mean, people ask me this all the time. How you get a verified check on Instagram? How you get I got more followers than you and I don't have no verified check. I was like, listen, boo, I don't know. Because I don't know how these things, there's no there's no application. It's a don't call us, we call you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I got verified other than I use the stuff. I share, I give people information, and I've done it consistently for years. And
I see
I got my check. I got my check on Twitter kind of early, but other ones, I've gotten like the last 3 or 4 years.
I'd like to jump in and talk about what Melinda's talking about. You're awesome, first of all.
I feel like there's a but coming.
No, but. No,
Go ahead, give it to me.
No, but.
Give it to me, Chad.
We both joined Twitter at the same time, 2008.
Okay.
I did get my check mark, and I didn't do anything to get it. At the time, I had, I don't know, like 48,000 followers, I think, when they gave me the check. And then Elon Musk bought it, and my check went away. And then all of a sudden, I had 26,000 followers. So I don't know what happened. I'm assuming a lot of bots were following me, but that was crazy to me. And just like what you said, it's not you call them, they call you.
No, it's definitely they call you. And I didn't lose my check, but I'm not paying for nobody's check. I tell you that. I don't care that much. Like, it's like, if you want to take it from me, take it, boo.
That's
I
what
don't
I
care,
did. I did it.
I mean, first of all, email is more trackable than social media is all day, any day, anyway. So the whole point of using social media is to drive traffic back to your website. And if that's not how you're using it, shame on you. You're not doing it right. So,
like they say, never build property on rented land, right?
That's it.
Because they can link that all your audience. And trust me, I know colleagues, clients, personal friends that have lost their accounts that they've worked so hard to build.
All the hacking. And then look at all these people that built their stuff on TikTok. Look, TikTok is going away. They are about to ban TikTok in America. Play with the U.S. government. Listen, like, all these people that I got 1 million followers on TikTok, I hope you do, because I hope you got the people's email addresses, because you're about to not have access to TikTok.
It's hard. I mean, it can literally be detrimental to your personal brand and the way in which you engage with your audience. Because look, we're all trying to obviously listening here to try to build our personal brands and really get some good insight on how we all have built our brands. And just like, Melinda, you used Twitter heavily, especially in the beginning, Chad with you and with LinkedIn, Glenna with you with with Instagram. I remember building my personal brand off of blogging. And then I joined Twitter to promote the blog, right? I see Chad, I see you raising your hand here.
No, mine was the same way. My blog was the secret sauce to the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was interesting for me is during grad school, I know Glenna also was somewhat in the same light where you're trying to go through grad school, also establish yourself on social media. And sometimes there's obviously a disconnect, especially I'm sure with your field. And we're definitely going to get into that. With me through grad school and in my MBA program, I essentially put all of my assignments as blog posts on the blog. And that was one way I was able to obviously multitask, but I would change the format of the assignments that were submitted, and I would even somewhat sacrifice a couple points because it may be too conversational, but you know what? I wanted to put it on my blog. And so that's how I was able to build the following at Digital Branding Institute by just simply putting those assignments on my blog, right? And I was able to build a following, and from that came more Twitter followers, Instagram, so on and so forth. And my personal brand was built based upon that activation. So yeah, that's how I built mine. And I'm sure, you guys have similar stories. Glenna, when you were in grad school, building your brand, what was that experience like for you?
I was incredibly busy. I had my practice. I was trying to build it while I was flying it. I had a handful of people in it. I was in this online doctorate program at USC where we still had to meet periodically live. My kids were like 2 and 4 when I started. That's when I started drinking coffee because I was like, I don't even know how I'm getting anything done. And I tried to just keep up with content, but your brain only has so much capacity. I could only think of so many things. And I had a friend that owned a recording studio, and she was very gracious. And I would go in the recording studio and record about 13 1-minute videos. And I would change my lipstick, my earrings, and my jacket so that, we could keep switching it out, put red lipstick, pink lipstick, black jacket, brown jacket, pull the hair back, pull it up, and then we would drip it over the semester. I was trying to make content at the beginning of the semester to get me through the rest of the semester. And those videos became part of my signature brand because that's where I learned how to be on camera. I learned how to be very concise. I learned how to say, hi, I'm Dr. Glenna. Therapy is a lifestyle. I learned how to get my brand, my tagline out there. And I became known as like the therapist with the quick videos, the therapist with the, the 1-minute hack. And then we would do them on Wednesdays and we would build content around them for Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. And that got me through each semester to the point where when I graduated, I made a few more and then we stopped. And then I slowed down on them and I was actually able to repurpose them even a couple years ago because they still look good. They still made sense. They were evergreen because of the way that I was recording them. And it definitely expanded my brand.
Nice.
Chad, how do you go about creating content for your personal brand?
That's a great question. So before I get into that, I just want your listeners and viewers to know that the process of me building my personal brand has done a lot of wonderful things for myself and my family, and especially my daughters. I have twin daughters. They're 15, or they're about to be 15, and they just started high school. I've had the opportunity to travel the world. I've keynote spoke in Santiago, Chile, Moscow, almost every country in Europe, multiple times. And it's been amazing. If you really can dig deep and build your brand online, what it can do for you and your family and the people around you is amazing. And I thank God every day, pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But
yeah. And I was going to say, I'm not even going to get into where you spoke, Melinda, because we don't have enough time for that. But yes.
I just got back from Cambodia. I was excited to hear him say that because I was like, I literally last week was in Cambodia training
I've
entrepreneurs
never
in Cambodia.
done Asia. I've done every continent.
Asia's awesome. I've done China, Singapore, and Cambodia. Southeast Asia is amazing. You definitely should do it. The flight is long, but the people are warm and the food is amazing. So that's what
Moscow was interesting. So I was actually speaking in Germany and then had a gig in Moscow. So I flew from Germany to Moscow. So I didn't have to fly from the U.S. to Moscow. But since I served 10 and a half years in the U.S. Army, Russia made me jump through super hoops to get a visa.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I want her to believe that. Yeah.
And for me, I think the first international trip for speaking was Istanbul, Turkey. They contacted me on LinkedIn because I had my LinkedIn profile optimized with keynote speaker, and they were looking for keynote speakers. They obviously dug down and took a look at my digital brand. And that's how I was able to have my trip to Turkey. And it was absolutely amazing. But what was very interesting about that speaking engagement is when I was on stage, they had an interpreter so that everyone listening to what I was saying right through their headphones. And sometimes, if you've been to any of my talks, I like to crack a couple jokes, right? You crack jokes, the interpreter then interprets it, and there's a delay in their response. So it really freaked me out because I'm like, okay, I just dropped a gym, haha, laugh. And then I go on and then they start laughing, right? And so that was definitely the most memorable speaking engagement I think I've had. But to all of your point, it all was based upon building that strong personal brand. It got us to that point, right? And I'm sure with you, Glenna, you were able to get clients and other opportunities based upon your personal brand. Tell us about that. Any wins that you can talk about with regard to your personal brand?
I have never had a speaker sheet. I've never had a speaker's deck. I should.
I can help you with that.
But every single opportunity that I've had has been word of mouth. I've had so many people contact me. The majority of people that contact me, I have to ask, like, how did you find me? And sometimes it's through social media. Sometimes it's through, I know somebody that knows you. I know somebody that follows you. I know somebody that talks about you. Again, when you're making videos and when you're talking to people, it feels like a conversation. It's one-sided, but it feels like a conversation. So people have met me. They've met my personality, and same, like one of the things that I had to learn really early on is that I don't have to look a certain way to be a therapist. Like when people think therapist, they think Freud, older white gentleman with glasses, and I'm none of that. Can't even pretend to be any of that. And so I learned that authenticity actually goes a long way, and reaching out to people, being myself, and realizing like attracts like. People would contact me from all different walks of life. And like I said, I did something with, I think the Alameda County Mental Health, that was one where I still to this day, I have no idea. They had a headhunter that reached out to me, and I asked the headhunter, how did you know about me? And he was like, somebody gave me your name. Never did tell me who the somebody was, but just being out there producing content. Because as a therapist, one thing about therapy, no one can really say whether you're doing a good job. It's word of mouth, but I can't legally, I can't ask them, can you give me a review and tell people how great your therapy is? I can't record the session and post it and say, look, I really am really good at what I do. When the door closes, that's it. So my voice and my ability to talk and articulate and be personable and be a real person, it really is super important to me being able to even build my business.
Yeah. One connecting thread between all of us on this podcast is we either are not afraid to do public speaking, or we've come over fear of public speaking. But there are plenty of people who are scared to death of public speaking or even putting themselves out there personally, even though they want to so bad. What kind of advice would you give people who are afraid to take that leap for various reasons?
I can start. So maybe I'm the exception. I don't know. You guys tell me. But when I get on stage, I'm kind of angry and bullish and aggressive. And that's just how I do it. I attack it. I don't know if it's the Army in me. 10 and a half years in the Army, some stuff kind of sticks, right? But yeah, that's the approach I take. And it seems to work, and audiences seem to like it.
Yeah. What about you, Melinda?
I think it's about, who you want to project. Like I tell people all the time, small biz lady is a character I play on the internet, right? And when I go out, I become her, right? I put on my cape, I get off on stage and I save the day. I fix businesses every day, right? And so I view it like that. Like I'm a doctor, I am giving people prescriptions to win. I don't view it as I'm speaking. I view it as I'm helping. And so because of that, I don't feel, I think I always feel a little bit of nerves right before, when they're introducing me. But man, when they put that mic in my hand and they put the light on me, forget it. Like I can crush a stage. But it's because it's about, I'm not pretending. I'm telling people what I know. I'm not telling people theory about it. And I've been doing it long enough. I tell people all the time, I've been through the fire, the wind, and the rain, so I can tell you about what it is to be on this journey we call entrepreneurship. And I think most people have good ideas, they just don't know how to run a business. And so I'm always about giving people information to try to protect them from some of these potholes that are out here that can give them a flat tire on any given day. And that's just how I look at it. I think sometimes in life and in business, you have to stop yourself. And then I think there are other times in business that you have to force yourself. And so I think when it comes to putting yourself out there, whether it's going to a networking event and introducing yourself or getting up on stage, or how many times have you been in a room and somebody said, everybody go around and introduce yourself, and 30 people introduce themselves and you can only remember what 3 people said because them other people don't know how to even properly introduce themselves. Like you have to make sure that when you go in any room, you're the person they remember. And they always remember the small biz lady because I make sure.
I love you,
For sure.
Melinda. Our souls are connected.
100, for sure.
Awesome. Dr. Glenna, what about you? I mean, what advice would you give for someone to sort of step outside of their shell and build that personal brand that they want?
Similar to what Melinda was just saying, I operate from authenticity. Like my first set of headshots, I look back at them and I don't know who that girl was. Like I had on a pencil skirt and low heels, and anybody who knows me, I'm like, where did I even find a pair of low heels? That is not me at all. But then the next set of headshots were more reflective of who I am. Like I'm going to wear a hoodie, I'm going to wear big earrings, I'm also going to wear high heels, and I'm going to wear makeup and all the things. And so when I started operating from a place of like, this is who I am, and I'm not going to be what I think I'm supposed to be. I'm just going to be who I am. And similar again to what she was just saying, I'm going to speak about what I know. What I do is talk to people for a living, right? You talk to me, I talk to you. It's my job to give feedback. And so I'm just doing it on a stage, right? Now I'm just doing it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes at a time directly to a larger audience. So just coming from a place of authenticity, and also coming from a place of confidence of, no, I do know what I'm talking about. I am knowledgeable and I do deserve to be on this stage. And just in general, I also have limits. I'm a private person. And I definitely operate by the theory of I don't have to set myself on fire to keep anybody else warm. So in building a personal brand, that does not mean that I have to subject all of my personal life and all of my personal business just so that I can share. I'm an authentic person. No, I am authentic. And I do not talk about my children. I do not share pictures of my family. I do not share kind of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just know for my own brand, my personal life, my personal time is not a part of my personal brand. And so I share a level of authenticity and I'm comfortable in that. And I know who I am. But I also have no problem saying that there are limits to how much access a person has to me. So my personal brand is very much prescribed. It's very clear. And it still allows me to also have a personal life.
Yeah. And so you talked about the personal brand. And then what about the professional brand? Do you have 2 separate accounts? How do you balance between the personal and professional? Give me your opinion there.
Personal brand and me, personal brand, professional brand, Dr. Glenna. And then I have my private account. So for example, if you were to go to my Instagram right now, there is no mention of my children. I don't say their names publicly. You would think I was Michael Jackson the way I'd be running around here. I do not. I don't even bring my children to like speaking events or anything. I've never, it was weird. I was pregnant. I was working as a therapist and I was pregnant. They're like, can we see the baby? No, you can't. Now back to your session. I'm very private when it comes to my family and my personal life. And I'm okay with that, right? There are things that I show, sure, but those things are for my personal, private page. That is where I show, whether my kid was playing sports or first day of school and things like that, or Christmas at grandma and grandpa's house. For me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've seen other therapists that have found ways to integrate their families and their personal lives into their personal and professional brand. For me, it's just a choice that I've made. And I found that it hasn't hindered my ability to still be authentic.
Yeah. Authenticity is key. And what I did to get over my fear of public speaking is kind of like you, Chad. I kind of tackled it head on. I try to make my weakness, my perceived weakness, my strength. And believe it or not, it's an interesting story, but when President Obama was elected, the way that the speeches that he delivered really just inspired me, right? And then fast forward, I can't even say this, but with President Trump, I felt as though it didn't really matter. You could have the highest office in the land. You could use words out of context, right? And it's just like, for me, I was like, people are forgiving. So I know I may say things that are out of context and I may feel insecure about it, right? But I realize that I do have an authentic story and a testimony. At the very least, no one can complain about that or contest that fact about me experiencing what I've experienced, and I'm presenting what I've experienced through my lens, and it can provide some value to them. And so once I realized that, I said, okay, you know what? I just got to go through it. So reading Malcolm Gladwell's, which is one of my favorite authors, his 10,000 hours to master a skill. So I just said, you know what? I just got to get through it. I'm going to go ahead and get through it and do as many speaking engagements as I can in order to perfect my craft. Same thing with this podcast.
I met
right?
him. Believe it or not, Marcus. Yeah. He's an amazing man.
Yeah. You're talking about Marcus Sheridan?
No.
Malcolm
Oh,
Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell. Oh, yes, Malcolm. Yeah, Malcolm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. I definitely like his work for sure. But after reading that book, it just reaffirmed my ability to hit the ground running, focus on showcasing my authenticity and at least my experience. And I can figure out the packaging later, right? So I just had to get through it, right? So I recommend that for anyone looking to step outside of their shell, focusing on, building their personal brand. Just the journey of 1,000 miles starts with what? The first step, right? So just get through it. And next thing you know, you'll look up and you'll be in Cambodia or you'll be in Moscow speaking or Istanbul, right? So just take the first step. That would be my recommendation there. All right. So I'm gonna hop off my soapbox. Moving on. When running an agency, I have plenty of clients that focus on, especially when building their personal brand. Again, kind of going back to how do I connect my personal brand with my professional brand? Dr. Glenna, you've mentioned some tactics in terms of how you maneuvered that. But what about you, Melinda? How have you connected your personal and professional brand, or have you blended it together and everything is small biz lady? Do you have a separate account? Give us more information.
So again, I've been doing this so long that, I had a personal Facebook account before there were business Facebook pages, right? So I am very strategic about what I share. It as much as I am a social media brand, I don't share anything that's not intentional. And I too am very private about my life, but I share my teachings, but not necessarily my life. And I think that one of the trends that I've seen that I really frown upon are these people who all they show is their lifestyle. And then they say they're a coach. And basically what they're presenting to people is, if you want to live like me, come be coached by me. And I personally think that kind of stuff is repugnant. And I am never going to stand in front of my car and do a video or walk people through all the art and things that I have in my house. Never. Now, I do have one son who I do share. And he is really funny because he says, Mom, everybody knows you. People recognize me because I'm your son. I said, well, I'm sorry, baby, you have fans. Whenever I post something about my son going to prom or graduating from high school, it goes viral on the internet. It's really funny. But I am very protective about my personal life. I have a sweetie. I have never said his name on the internet. There's maybe 3 pictures that have ever been posted of me and him, but nobody knows his name unless you know him. That's the only way you know who he is, because I want to keep even that part of my life private, but I don't want to look like I'm a hermit that only teaches people business, right? I like to look like I have a life.
Thought you were dropping exclusive name of the Grab Behavior podcast. We have it live right here. No? Okay. All right. Well,
no.
Nice try. Wishful thinking.
My sweetie is anonymous on the internet. Personal pictures of my son on my personal Facebook page. So if you are a personal friend of mine, you do see more pictures than other people do. But in general, I'm not posting a bunch of stuff about my personal life. Even if I post that I'm on vacation, I post my toes in the sand. I never tell you where I'm at. I just tell you small business ladies on vacation, right? So I want you to know that I have a life, but I ain't trying to make you a part of it. I just need to let you know that, no, I went on vacation and I enjoyed myself. I also don't post until I come back. So, because I don't want anybody to rob my house while I'm gone. But anyway, so I just try to I personally think that your personal brand is a secret weapon to promote your business. So I don't believe in separating them, but I don't believe that I don't believe in posting everything about your life.
So what's the percentage
on the internet? I don't believe in shaking your money maker. I'm not about any of that stuff. Although I will say, one time my team begged me to do it for my birthday. I did dance one time on my birthday on TikTok, and I was so mad because that video got more views than any of our other helpful content. And I was like, this is stupid.
Hey, listen, the small business lady twerking is going to have a lot of viral views.
Oh, no, you ain't never going to see that. That's a private show. You never going to see that. But I mean, I think we can have fun. We can be people and we can appreciate things about people. But I think some of the culture that we've gotten into of people, renting planes and renting clothes and pretending to have lives that they do not have so that they could look like they're successful, so that they can manipulate people to work with them or coach with them or something like that. That culture is, I'm anti that. I'm anti that all day.
So what percentage do you think, if you're creating a content calendar, what percentage do you think should be personal, business? What type of balance do you think there should be?
I mean, it's hard to say. I've never thought about it in those terms. Whenever I teach people about posting content, I talk to them about give to get. And I talk to them about posting a 4-to-1 ratio of helpful content, insightful content to one piece of promotional content. I've never thought about it like, how often do you show a picture of you and your girlfriends out on a Friday night kicking it? I mean, I think it's good to sprinkle those things in occasionally. Like, I was somewhere with Malik Yoba one time and I took a picture of me and him and threw it up on the gram, and everybody was like, oh, you know what I mean? So I believe that you can share moments from your life, but I also believe that you're supposed to enjoy the moments and that everything is not to be recorded. Everything is not to be shared.
Yeah. So
no, I was giving her props, but so back to your original question that I kind of skipped over, and I apologize for that, about content. How much content do I create? So since 2008, I've written about 1,400 articles. Those articles have been featured on Inc.com, The Guardian. I've been featured in the New York Times, HubSpot's website, many, 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 many times.
So basically, you've been slacking. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying, so the point I'm getting at is that whatever content you create, I think it was Melinda that talked about the 3 C's. I have 1 C, and that's consistency. Because if you can be consistent in all the content that you produce, that content will be seen by other people and shared by other people. And at some point, that's going to trickle its way to Inc.com, Forbes,
I agree. I completely
Yeah,
agree with that. And I will also say too, I think just this whole brand building, the concept of brand building requires relentless
yeah,
consistency. Like if you're not willing to work at it, if you're not willing, like one tweet is not going to change your life, but consistent tweeting will. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to make a decision that this is what you're going to do to build your
yeah.
business.
But how? How, right? Like Dr. Glenn was
Yeah.
saying,
I mean,
how can, if someone says, look, I barely have the time for myself, I cannot focus on creating content
yeah,
consistently.
but
And
I don't want to even hear all that because it's easier than ever to create content. I think what you have to figure out is what kind of content is going to work for you. Like if you're not a writer, please don't start a blog. Like don't stress yourself out trying to do that. But there's so many ways to post content. You could do podcasts, you can do video clips. Frankly, videos converting better than any other kind of content on the internet. So these 1 minute videos that Glenn is talking about, she can repurpose that stuff all over the internet on every platform, whether it's YouTube short, whether it's what is it? YouTube shorts, TikTok, the reels, Facebook, whatever. I mean, the thing about it is you have to figure out your content and you also have to do some surveys to find out what kind of content your audience wants from you, right? But once you get those two things together, it's not that hard. If you take 1/2 day a week and just do content 1/2 day a week, you can have 10 pieces of content a week. It's just not that hard once you get focused on it. Once you know, the more you know about your customer, the easier it is to write content or produce content to support them.
yeah,
And it comes down to who are you talking to and
yeah,
what
yeah,
platform are you talking to them on. And then once you know those two things, do the content. Figure out
yeah.
what the content strategy is and do the content.
You
Make
know,
a plan. You have to plan.
sometimes it's
Isn't
like,
that what you do?
yeah, I was gonna say sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get content from the personal brands that we represent at the agency. And it's like, we need this content in order to successfully help them build their brand, right?
But
But it
people
just
have
it
to get
just
team. People have to get like I have a young lady that works for me. She comes to my office once a month and we record 10 videos. And then she goes away. She edits them. She does all the fancy graphics for them. And next thing you know, y'all are seeing them on the internet. I don't touch that stuff. I'm the talent. And that's what I do. I treat myself like the talent in my business. So if you have a client that you're struggling to get the personal content from, tell them to hire some young person to help them produce it.
that's fair. That's absolutely fair. And I think when we look at structurally, okay, people are gonna say, okay, Melinda, hey, Dr. Glenn, hey, Chad, you're telling me I should create this content, but I don't have time. What is the framework that I should use in order to help create that content? So here's one recommendation. One, we figure out, okay, well, what's your bandwidth? What's your calendar looking like? And can we plug in, an hour a week, a day, a month, something like that, so you can just create content on those days and call it content days, right? And from there, you can create one long form piece of content and then begin to repurpose it in other forms, right? I align this with what we may do at Thanksgiving if you celebrate Thanksgiving, right? You have your turkey, and then usually the day after Thanksgiving is what? It's more turkey, it's turkey sandwiches, it's
Turkey
casserole,
salad day.
blah, 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 right? So you're remixing that turkey. It's the same thing for your content. You create one big piece of content, and this could be a video where you're just talking about yourself, your services, your why, and then transcribe that, break that into 10 to 20 bite-sized pieces, schedule that out on the various social networks. Now you have text, tweetables, you have quote images, you have short form content, and you pretty much can create content for the entire
And there's
month
too
just
many
based upon
AI
that one day.
tools now that can cut it up for you. Like you don't even have to.
I just want to
Used to be.
and I want
Go ahead, Glenn.
they're beginners because everything that you're saying makes so much sense. And Jante, when I started my business, I've known Jante since we were in undergrad. When I started my business, he created the Digital Brand Institute. It was like a whole, I believe it was a digital course, and sent it to me. And it was like, okay, all you have to do is this, and this. But for a person where everything that you're saying is for. It's like chop it up and do this and multi-purpose and long form and short form. And it's like, whoa, like you're talking to people who maybe they make body scrubs and that's what they know. That's their world. Or maybe they're a florist and that's what they know. That's their world. And so everything that you guys are saying, it makes perfectly good sense. And it seems relatively simple because you eat, sleep, breathe it. But for a person that all of this is new, that's really overwhelming. And I could say it now as a person where I have evolved. And like what you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, like I hired a social media person and I do have a virtual assistant that she knows my passwords better than I know any of my passwords. So, but that took time to kind of evolve and to build the team. Because at one point I hired somebody, I had to fire 2 people. And, you know, I'm sure we've all had to fire somebody, but I had to fire one person and we had to do it in public because I was like, sir, you have messed with my money. So I got to fire you in public because this is going to get real if it happens behind closed doors. So it doesn't always happen as smoothly as we think it should happen. I would say for the beginner, like if you are a novice and if you're trying to dip your toe, you're trying to figure out which direction to go in, and it's better than that. Just do something. And as you do it, you'll get stronger because you might not know. You might think that you're good at making videos and you go back and look at them and you got all the ums and the video quality is bad and how you project yourself on camera doesn't actually play out as well as you thought it did. Or maybe you thought that making silly TikToks was going to be the way until you realize it's actually compromising the integrity of your overall brand and the business that you're trying to do. So maybe you just start with something. And then after a while, you grow in terms of what you are good at. Nedra Tawwab, I'm probably mispronouncing her last name, but she's a therapist and all of her content for the longest was just tiles. No videos, no audio, no nothing. It was just tiles with nuggets and tidbits and information, bullet points on A, B, and C. I had no idea what that woman looked like, but I knew that her social media was full of information. And when she put her book out, I bought her book based on the information that she put out. I didn't care that I had never seen her dance. I had never seen her speak. I didn't care about any of that. And so she recognized that the value was in her intellect and in the words that she was speaking. And then you have other people that have made, other people that have figured it out in different ways and in different formats. So to the person that's a novice, where it's like, well, I don't know what all to do, and all of that sounds easy, but it's actually very overwhelming. Just start with something, and then you'll grow into something that does become consistent. I didn't have like brand colors, brand tiles, and all of that. It started with me just posting, might be something orange, it might be something yellow, it might be something black and white, different fonts, different whatever, until I started to look and say, actually, this color scheme depicts who I am and what I'm trying to say. These fonts consistently reflect who I am and what I'm trying to do. They consistently reflect my brand, and that's how my brand developed. And it took for me to do that for 2 or 3 years. And then I sat down and met with a brand specialist that really refined it all. So even if you just start with something, it might not be perfect, it might not be pretty, but if you just start and kind of take these nuggets from people that are actually experts in the field, then you can grow and expand it over time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey.
So,
Oh
Brett,
no, I was just gonna take it back to the tactical because I want to make sure that the people that watch this have a lot of stuff they can take, and everybody's shared a lot of tactical stuff, but I think when it comes to content, this is one of the most important things that I teach my students. By the way, I don't know if you knew this. My personal brand has actually allowed me to teach at Indiana University and Rutgers University, content marketing. Big Ten, yeah, go Big Ten. But anyways, what I teach them is when it comes to content, the over 10 years I did in the Army, I learned a couple principles. The first principle is KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Second principle that I learned is how to create content, believe it or not, in the Army. And that is tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them, tell them what to do next. Doesn't matter your format on content, video, written, any other form, those always work. Tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, tell them what to do next. That's the formula. You do that, you're good to go.
Well, on that note, we talked about how to leverage digital platforms to build your personal brand. We talked about all the various social media networks and how we've gotten our start or built our tribes on those social media accounts. We talked about content creation, telling our story, consistency and authenticity are a major part of that process. We also outlined some frameworks, some hacks, best practices, things like that. And now I want to talk about how to monetize our personal brands, turning our personal brands into an actual business. Give me some insight or examples on how you, Melinda, turned your personal brand into a successful business.
Well, for one, the whole reason why I got on social media was because I had written my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 months. And then the market crashed and my book got bumped 18 months. And so for me, at first it was like, well, what am I going to do? And then a friend of mine was like, look, if I were you, I would start publicizing that book like it was coming out anyway. You know, we had 18 months to build my author platform. And that's what we did. And we did it mostly through blogging. And then we did it through my Twitter chat that I did on Twitter for 10 years called Small Biz Chat. So Small Biz Chat became so popular that I was able to get corporate sponsors to sponsor it. So that was like my first taste at influencer marketing. And then from there, I started getting calls from brands to do corporate brand deals. Like I think I was one of the, I probably was one of the first influencers to like make money like that on the internet. Over the years, I mean, I probably worked with 150 different corporate brands doing anywhere from consulting to actually just being an influencer and spokesperson for their brand. So that was something that happened, but it also bolstered my marketing consulting firm that I had for 25 years. So we started doing social media strategy. Then we started doing influencer marketing strategy. Then we just evolved into full-scale customer acquisition, customer retention strategy. But one of the things that we did was we niched in small business. So we only do what's called B to SMB marketing. I don't do B2B or B2C. I only target brands that target the small business market. Small business market is pretty big. There's a lot of Fortune 500 companies that want to sell to small business owners. It turned into an amazing niche for us. And my Small Biz Lady brand ended up being an incredible lead magnet because people would call me about Small Biz Lady, and then I would get to tell them about my marketing consulting firm. So we like to get two checks. You know, we get paid on both sides of the deal. Will pay us for strategy, and I'll be a part of your execution plan too. So that's how pretty much how we work that.
Yeah. What about you?
One of the first things that I had to learn was my client lifespan. So again, being a therapist, I did like a women's conference or something like that, and I learned nobody wants to talk to the therapist in public. So I never did an event like that again. It was a cheap lesson. It wasn't terribly expensive. It was a relatively cheap lesson to learn, like, oh, this is not the place for you. So understanding client lifespan helps me to understand that I can put the content on social media and there's going to be 3 to 6 months of people just watching me before they actually decide to become a client. Because of course, my first bread and butter is one-on-one therapy. So understanding client lifespan so that I understood what I was doing and how I was investing and how long it was going to take before I saw a return on said investment. So understanding my client lifespan was really important. And then when quarantine started, just like lawyers, they ask lawyers to do things pro bono. Social workers, we kind of have the same thing. When you see that there's a crisis, you offer your services pro bono just to help the community. So when quarantine started, I started the happy hour. It was a weekly webinar. It was supposed to be a 4-part series just to kind of give people a little encouragement, just something to talk about their mental health while we were in this, crisis. And that was when I thought quarantine was going to be a few weeks. And of course, quarantine was forever. And so I ended up doing that once a week, 60-minute webinar with brand new content every single week for a year. And we recorded every single one and we keep it in what we call the vault. So now there's 52 different topics of me teaching for 1 hour. And from that, people started reaching out and I started doing more virtual teaching, which I still have contracts now 4 years later with a lot of these people. And that created passive income because I set it up so that you could purchase the replay. So now there's 52 different topics that you can turn around and go buy the replays, and I don't have to actually do anything. I've already done the work, I've already recorded it, and it's in a cloud ready to go. And then another thing that I really wanted to create was different touch points, because not everybody either wants to work with me for one-on-one or can't afford it, or maybe they're out of state, because I'm only licensed in the state of California. And so I have the Therapy is a Lifestyle Wellness Weekend that I do. And, we have sponsorships for that. We have a 1-day workshop that we do on Saturdays from about 9 to 3. And then we do Sunday brunch at the Palos Verdes Golf Course, or the Los Verdes Golf Course. And what it did is it created, of course, different income streams, but also different touch points, so people can have access to me and my knowledge base and, whatever I have going on in different formats.
Nice.
Awesome. What about you, Chad?
Yes. My monetization is different. So I was a co-founder of a company. We started out as Slingshot SEO. We ended up going from 7 employees to 135 employees. We rebranded the company to Relevance. We were the first online publication to write about content distribution and promotion. So there's all kinds of content marketing blogs out there, how to create your content. But what we focused on was how to promote that content, because nobody was doing it. So we found our niche, and we actually ended up selling the company. We had an exit. I was fortunate to have an exit, and we sold the company to a company in India. And it took like 3 years off and went to the Dominican Republic and learned some Spanish. But yeah, all of my personal branding has been to develop and grow the business that I'm in. I don't have my own business. I'm a partner and have partners. And that's how I've always approached business. That's just my thing. I'm pretty risk averse. And by the way, I have a degree in entrepreneurship, by the way, but I like to tell people that I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm an intrapreneur, because I'm so risk averse. But it's worked out fabulously for me.
I think there's 2 components to monetizing your personal brand. And what comes to me is quality and quantity. When we think about quality, focusing on creating quality content, right, that obviously engages with your audience, and you're able to build a tribe based upon that quality content. And then quantity is, well, how many followers or how many people are in your tribe, because that is what matters when you're looking to monetize. The more followers, the more people in your tribe, the more you're able to charge for your services. And so when you think about quantity, you have to showcase your audience to potential partners, sponsors, and so on. Well, what's the best way to showcase that? Is by not sending them to your Instagram or your Twitter account and saying, hey, look how many followers I have, but putting together a media kit, right? So once you have that quality content, you're able to develop a large following, then you can create a media kit that explains your entire digital footprint. You have X number of followers on different social networks, X number of email contacts, X number of impressions on your website. Put all that stuff together and then put it in a media kit, and you can actually solicit, if there's solicit yourself to help amplify someone else's brand or offering. You can first start off with a brand that you just naturally like, have some type of affinity for. Reach out to them and say, hey, I like what you're doing. I want to collaborate with you. My audience can also know about your product or service, and there could be a check that comes along with it. And it just keeps rolling there. And I'm sure, Melinda, you know all about this as well with all the brand deals that you've had. That's one way I think you would be able to start, by focusing on quality and then quantity. All right. So that was some examples that I think would be good for everyone to follow who's looking to build a strong personal brand. All right. So now we're going to fast forward into a section that I like to call bad, bold, and brilliant. And this essentially is where we talk about different campaigns, or in this case, personal brands, and label them as bad, bold, or brilliant. So I want your advice. First personal brand, Elon Musk. So let's start off and talk about that guy. He's a prime example of someone who's built a strong digital brand, mainly through his activity on X, right? He uses X not just to communicate company news, but also share his unfiltered thoughts and engage with his followers directly. We all know his X presence has played a significant role in boosting public profiles, especially of his companies, Tesla and SpaceX. But would you label his personal brand bad, bold, or brilliant?
I would actually label it bad, because if you look at his stock price for Tesla, his personal brand has hurt. The more he has exposed people to his personal views and his personal interests, it's turned off some people to buy his products who were his biggest advocates. And so I think that maybe he has enough money that he didn't care once he started sharing his views. He would absolutely not be someone who I thought had a good brand. It's a shame, though, because I actually think he's a brilliant person. But it's like he's an evil genius. I mean, it's a little bit, it's unfortunate because he revolutionized the car industry, right? You can't say he's not brilliant. You can say he doesn't have good values. You can say that. And so I think that, your integrity costs. When you expose people to who you really are, people get a choice.
But do you think that his antics, if you will, on the X platform is bringing more light and awareness? Do you think that he's either stupid or genius in terms of his approach? I mean, these, it's difficult to tell. Right?
It is difficult to tell, but I think ultimately he was better off when people just thought he was a business genius. Then when he started talking and people started understanding what he believes and what he does, I think it's turned people off to Twitter. I think it's turned people off to Teslas.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you would definitely label it bad.
I would definitely say it was bad. Right. I mean, he's still one of the richest guys in the world, right? So he doesn't really care that we think it's bad, but yeah, I think it's bad.
All right, next we have Kylie Jenner. So her personal brand is a powerhouse in the beauty industry. Her use of Instagram has been crucial for building her cosmetics empire, Kylie Cosmetics. Her posts and stories engage with millions of followers, and her ability to convert those social media followers into sales is a testament to the power of a great personal brand. But do you think her personal brand is bad, bold, or brilliant?
Are you asking me again?
I'm not anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone.
I'm not the right person to answer that.
So I assume you're not using Kylie Cosmetics. Oh, okay. All right, that's fair.
From the perspective of a person who loves makeup, I have at one point I had one of her lip glosses and I really liked it. And then as her personal brand started to expand, it definitely made me not want to buy. And there's so many times that I will go to Ulta or Sephora or wherever they sell her stuff, and I'll stop and I'll look at it and I'll think about her. And I'm like, no, thank you. I would rather buy from somebody else.
Interesting. It's kind of like to your point, Melinda, about people showing off their boats and houses and stuff like that, and kind of connecting that to their personal brand, which could impact people's purchasing decisions. Right?
I also think that there are plenty of people who are indifferent about it. Right? Plenty of people that are like, it's a great lip gloss. It's a good liner. It goes with my color perfectly. I'm going to purchase it. It's reasonably priced. I'm going to purchase it. And they don't even really know or pay attention to the people behind who's making the product. So I think that it goes both ways. I think that there are more educated and informed buyers that will allow the person's personal brand to influence whether or not they make the purchase. And I think there's a lot of people that are just not concerned about the individual, and they will just purchase because it works for them.
Yep. And next up, we have rapper and mogul 50 Cent. Now, full transparency, he was a past client, but he's a fascinating case of someone who's transformed his personal brand from being a rapper to being a business mogul. So he successfully leveraged his digital presence to build a diverse brand portfolio. He obviously utilized social media to promote his ventures and his hit TV show Power, and I think he has a couple alcohol brands as well. And he's known for a savvy use of Instagram and X to engage with fans and promote his projects and provide a little controversy as well. But it ultimately demonstrates his versatility, right? To reach and engage with audiences and thus have a very powerful personal brand. But would you label his personal brand bad, bold, or brilliant?
Brilliant. And
Why is that?
because while he may say things that promote controversy, cross 50 Cent and see what happens. Like he might say something, but he will back it up. So he's not the person, he doesn't have Twitter fingers. He's not the person that, he's going to say something, throw a rock and hide his hands. No. He's intelligent. He's made a very smooth pivot from being a rapper that is actively creating albums and creating music to going into a different industry, employing a lot of people, promoting the things that he has going on. But I think it's brilliant.
Well,
So it's physical.
I'll jump in on that. I'm actually an old school hip hop head, believe it or not.
You got the Kangol beanie. I see that for all you guys watching.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
My daughters wear Kangol. And they rap.
Nice.
Believe it or not.
Okay.
But anyways.
Okay.
I would say 50 Cent's more of a unicorn. I wouldn't give him any of those labels. He's on his own island, pretty much. But what I will say is, supposedly there's some Diddy connections and all that's starting to fall right now as we sit here. And that all might come crashing down. I don't know. I'm just saying.
We shall see. We shall see. All right. So now next on our segment is called Tools You Can't Live Without. All right. So each of you, I want you to share a tool that you can't live without. It could be an app, it could be a tactic, and how you ultimately apply these tools or tactics to your personal or professional lives. Chad, I want to have you go. What are some tool or app or anything that you can't live without?
So the first one that I actually live without now is TweetDeck. TweetDeck was taken from me by Elon Musk, and I'm not happy about it. And I can get it back, but I got to pay him for that little check that I used to have that I no longer have. So that's one. If you have a check mark, TweetDeck is the, But anyways, I'm a big fan of BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo allows you to traverse different social profiles and see what kind of activities going on. You can traverse articles and see how many times they've been shared and on what networks. And you can also use BuzzSumo to search influencers. So if you're into influencer marketing at all, BuzzSumo is awesome. The other thing, and I'm a tool geek, SEMrush, excuse me. SEMrush, if you're into SEO, I learned SEO in 2006, and I've been doing it since. I'm an OG in SEO. Love it. Know it. Will probably die doing SEO. But SEMrush is the quintessential tool for search engine optimization.
Awesome. What about you, Dr. Glenna?
My most trusted tool is my virtual assistant. Shout out to Janae with my admin work. I'm a firm believer in hiring for your weaknesses. And me and Janae, we've been rocking together for the last 5 years. It's again, being a therapist, I'm in the chair. There's 60 minutes where I can't do anything because I'm actually doing the thing that I do. And I love it, so it's not a problem. But having somebody that knows all my passwords, knows all the background stuff, she knows all the back end, she knows how to upload everything into Thinkific, she knows how to change things on the website, send emails out. Like, she takes care of all of the background things that I absolutely need to happen in order for me to be able to do what I can do. So having a virtual assistant is, my business would not be where it is if I did not have her running things in the background.
And what about you, Melinda?
Well, Chat GPT is mine. I
yes,
mean,
yes.
I use it every day for something. Like I said, I'm not writing books with it, but I'm definitely using it for newsletters, for social content, for, sales funnels, that kind of stuff. Absolutely. ChatGPT, hands down, is my favorite tool. And the paid version is how you can keep your intellectual property from getting into other people's hands. So spend the $20 a month.
Hey,
It's worth
Melinda,
it.
Melinda, I just want to let you know, I just switched from ChatGPT to Perplexity this week.
Somebody just showed me a demo of Perplexity
It's
the
better.
other day.
I swear to
just
God, it's
showed
better.
it to me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Somebody just showed me that like 2 days ago. And I was like, am I going to switch? Am I going to do it? I don't know. But yeah, no, I think these AI tools are really powerful. One of my favorite websites that I'll also put out there is there's a website called there'sanaIforthat.com, which is a directory of all of the AI tools. You go in there and search for tools to do this, tools to do that, and it'll give you the list of 8 to 10 tools to do anything. So that's my secret gift to all of you is there's an AI for that, and figure out these AI tools because you can increase your personal productivity 200% using them.
Absolutely. Well, now is that time where we talk a little bit more about you all, what you have coming up, where people can contact you. I know, Melinda, you are promoting your book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 months, as well as some upcoming
book has been out
webinars.
for 14 years. I'm not promoting that thing anymore. No, what I'm promoting is my membership site for women entrepreneurs, Small Biz Lady Academy. We just opened it up in the last 2 weeks. I'm so excited. It is a confidential private community for women entrepreneurs to get what you need to either start your business or to grow your business. And we're really proud of it. It's at smallbizladyacademy.com.
Awesome. What about you, Chad? What do you have coming up on your radar?
So if anybody has any needs for digital marketing services and literally any digital marketing service, my agency, aok.com, and that's spelled out AYO. So it's not A and O and K. So it's AOK spelled out.com. I have myself written over 12 books. I say over because I've retired some because they're so old they don't work anymore in our digital world. You can go to chadpolitt.com. They're all my books are free. I give them away. I have been on many podcasts for all my books, and people seem to love them, and they're free. So go to my website and download my books.
Awesome. What about you, Dr. Glenna? What do you have coming up?
After like 2 years of not taking any new clients, I'm currently taking new clients. So if anybody's in the state of California, we can meet virtually. We can meet live in my office in Torrance. Also, we just did the Therapy for Lifestyle Wellness Weekend in August of 2024. And so now we are looking to do it again in September of 2025. And as we ramp up for that, I'm going to be doing a series of wellness meetups. Some of them will be live. Some of them will be virtual. So make sure you go to the website, drglenna.com, so that you can sign up and be aware of when all of those events are happening.
Awesome. Well, listen, I am your host, Jonte Delane, founder at Digital Delane, a full-service digital marketing agency where we help bring new brands, campaigns, and ideas to life. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Brand Behavior. We hope you gain valuable insights into building a strong personal brand in the digital world. Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. And if you enjoy this episode, please leave us a review and share it with your network. We'll see you next time.